I just Googled it. This is from February 2nd, 2024. And it says there's 35K in Germany.
That's wrong.
24K in South Korea.
Yeah.
53K in Japan.
Yep.
We occupied these countries and we never left.
Never left.
And I want to stress this. Japan was defeated in World War II. The U.S. occupied Japan and never left.
There's a whole division. The 3rd Marine Division was based out of Okinawa. So it's a whole division. There's only 3 Marine divisions. There's Camp Lejeune. There's 29 Palms in Southern California, and there's Okinawa. Now it's not. I think they've moved the 3rd Marine Division. I don't think it's there now, but it was there
for a long time.
For the longest time, the whole division.
At a certain point, I'm like, yeah, we can leave Germany. Like the Iron Curtain has fallen.
Let's accept this number. Okay, maybe can we have like 5,000 there? Do we need 30?
Do we need any? I mean, don't all international military bases ultimately...
How about
we don't need none? Like,
All right,
how about
so
0?
I'm going to go on my own island on this one. We need some because we can't operate the national security platform in this modern day world if we don't have any of our guys on the ground in certain locations doing America.
So Asia,
who's going to spy on Angela Merkel?
No, but
Angela Merkel deserves to be spied on like she was previously before by the U.S. intel agencies.
I agree. I don't know about those numbers, but I agree. But Phil,
well, it is a good point. There, like one of the problems that we had before 9/11 was the fact that we had no human intelligence. There was no context. There weren't people in those places that you could talk to. Like there was nobody for the State Department to actually discuss like any kind of policy or anything like that. So or like find out who knew what. That's why it took so long to get Bin Laden and stuff. There was no human intelligence. So there's an argument.
Bin Laden?
What?
Oh, I got questions about that.
Oh, you want to talk Neptune Spear?
We don't have to.
Let's go down the rabbit hole. I'm all in on it.
They just changed the story 5 times, and he was on kidney
so
dialysis.
Anyways, there is an argument that there is a use for the military to have some kind of context, but you don't need to have the full U.S. military in military bases with the amount of air power that the U.S. has with the capabilities of the Navy and stuff that we have. We can reach most places. I understand, inside Asia's really Asia's a big continent. I get that there are limitations, but still, we don't need to have military bases all over the world.
Can I just ask a question real quick?
What?
How many foreign military bases are there in the United States?
None. I mean, unless you count the Chinese FBI or the Chinese
police station.
Yeah, those.
Don't forget those and the farmland they're buying in North Dakota or wherever else.
Right.
But outside of that.
It's insane. I'm looking we got troops in Italy.
Oh, Italy's. We got some nice shops in Italy. I've been to them.
12,400 in Italy.
Sweet deal.
It's wild to think that the U.S. has military bases in other people's countries. It's just crazy to think. We are effectively we're the world police. I'm not a fan of it.
I agree with you, and we should stop it. But there is at least it makes sense to address the reason why, which is nuclear non-proliferation. The point was to deter other countries from developing nuclear weapons, and we're not in that world anymore. And I get it, and we need to stop thinking like the Cold War. But at the very least, to talk about why, so that way the people that are listening understand why. Because most people don't think of things in a Cold War mentality nowadays anymore, or they're unfamiliar with it. So to just say, the U.S. military is in a bunch of bases around the world, people don't know what the thought process was, and they don't understand why. And they don't understand that the point was to not have every country get nuclear weapons and therefore increase the chances of nuclear war.
You know. Oh, your mic's off.
Your mic's off. Yeah.
Serge.
Ah.
I feel like I'm being oppressed as a woman. I just have to say it. And I'm just kidding. So where do we actually need bases? Why are we in Germany? Do we actually need to be there? What's critical for national defense?
So we need them all over the world. We just don't need as many.
So
and
where do we need them?
Well, they're in Germany because of the larger policies against Russia.
We keep them in places like Japan, Korea, Germany. We keep them in spots in the Middle East.
And then which ones do you close down?
It's just a selection process. I'm not going to go out there and say you close down Germany. We need some bases there.
But which ones do we close, though?
You can't close. That's where I'm on my own island. You can't close the entire operation.
So you want to cut you want to cut it, but also you can't close them. How do you?
Yeah, cut it. Yeah, you
just reduce them.
Yeah,
I feel like that you should just close some of them. Do you really need all of them?
Oh, you're saying every base? No, there's tons you can close, but you can't close any one country. Is what I'm saying, right? But you can't be like Japan. We're gone. Like that.
But we could.
That's my opinion. I don't think you could do that. But you can close a lot of them and shut them down and save a ton of taxpayer money. I mean, this is a collision course that people say, oh, now you're anti-military. I'm like, okay, that's funny. Yeah. But what Congress needs to do is come in and stop the government growth of these agencies. They go to Congress every year, and I've worked on the Hill, and they say, oh, we're doing so well, we need 1,000 more billets, 1,000 more employees. And every year over the last 50 years, this is how this growth has happened in DOD land, in Intel land, in whatever. And you needed to pare back.
I didn't know we had an Air Force base here. Where is this? Ilha Terceria?
It's our vacation spot, you know?
Yeah. But
just the Azores.
The Azores.
Oh, yeah. That's... Dude, you got to see like Diego Garcia and just
here's today's military showing military bases for Europe and Asia. So we have nothing in France. We got a lot in Germany. This makes sense. And then let's head over to the Pacific, and we can pull up every single.
And then there's also Guam as well.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, we got a Coast Guard base. Is that Guam?
That doesn't
Coast Guard basically.
That way you have a place to get a tan.
That doesn't look nearly as dramatic as I remember it looking last time I looked at all the U.S. military bases.
But when you look at the military-industrial complex, it's not just bases that are kind of key issues of concern. They have the American taxpayer in a stranglehold. There's so much pork. There's so much waste. When we look at what Halliburton did to the American soldiers in Iraq under the leadership of Dick Cheney, it is absolutely criminal what they did to our American U.S. soldiers. The military-industrial complex with their blank contracts are literally ripping off their American taxpayer, screwing over the U.S. military, and we are paying them top dollar for what when we're finding out that a lot of the times they rip us off. So just giving them a blank check, I think this is one of the key issues that I think Donald Trump absolutely needs to address since under his administration he was expanding the military. There needs to be larger accountability. There needs to be larger people coming in and being like, hey, stop ripping off the American taxpayer. We had enough. Stop wasting our money.
Well, the good news is the Space Force is only in the U.S.
Dude, the Space Force is awesome.
Were you
awesome how? What are they working on?
What's that?
Space Force was the one that they were putting in Colorado. Then there was a push to put it in Alabama.
It's in space.
We actually put it in Alabama under President Trump because it's a strategic move.
But this is something the Biden administration reversed.
They moved it back to Colorado. So basically, it's another defense industrial complex land grab, right? We wanted it in a strategic location for reasons that Space Force needed to be in a geographic location that's not Colorado. And Alabama came up, and it was good. It was viable, and it was a good option. It was a good pick. And then they came in and said, nope, we're not spending money there. We're spending money in Colorado.
Which is the opposite of what they did before with the Wildlife Services, right? We're supposed to have a headquarters in Colorado, and then Biden was like, no, they should be in D.C. with the rest of us.
Right, exactly.
We're not a bureaucratic state.
I want to give a shout out to the Space Force because it really helps exemplify what we were up against politically. When Space Force was announced, there was an image someone posted wearing their uniform, and it was green. And then all of these liberals online started making fun of the Space Force, saying, why are they wearing jungle camo if they're Space Force? And then someone actually made a spacesuit that looked like outer space with stars. And it's like a holy crap moment because you're like, these people were legitimately serious in making fun of Trump and the Trump administration because Space Force personnel were wearing ground-based camouflage. And the question was, okay, first, do you think that if Space Force personnel end up fighting in outer space, they will be adrift outside of a spaceship? So they need second
BDUs.
Right. Yeah.
So someone actually made a uniform that looked like outer space. Like second, okay, first, if they are in outer space, they will be in spaceships, and in the event they're ejected from that spaceship for some reason. We want to be able to find them, so they wouldn't be wearing all black. And they legitimately were criticizing. My favorite response was, "Do you think someone said, do you think space conflict will be a bunch of people floating around in space shooting at each other?"
No, and they used it as a attack point because Donald Trump launched Space Force, not anybody else. DJT did it. And in his administration, the reason we did it and the reason he did it, and I think it's the right move today, is because space is where we are getting our asses kicked by the Chinese and the Russians. And they are literally, if you want to attack America, you do it through space and you do it underwater. And the fact that we don't have enough resources focused on that threat and that DJT made the decision to do it was one that probably everyone wanted to do, but like everything else, since he did it, it was a bad idea. Let's make fun of the uniforms. Something ridiculous like that. And now they're doubling down on,
and Space Force is one of the only branches that actually meets its recruiting levels, right? All the other branches are struggling. It's basically,
everyone's down.
Special Forces are okay, the Marines are okay most of the time, and then Space Force, because I think, to be fair, it is something people are really interested in. It's a new frontier. It has a similar aspect to when we were, launching rockets back in the day. But I agree with you. I think that's what felt so petty about being like, Alabama has this contract, we're going to put it here, and the Biden administration being like, no, Colorado, because we decided it. It seemed like just something to spite, and because Alabama's a red state and Colorado's governed by a Democrat
all politics.
Right now. Right?
It's all politics.
It's not about progress. It's about a victory in our pocket.
And we reverse it.
Right.
Cash.
And wasting time.
Yeah.
So I don't want to derail the conversation, but we've been talking about like military expenditures and stuff like that, and that kind of like those kind of payouts, like they really don't have a massive effect on the debt and the national debt, and that's the greatest threat to the U.S. right now is the national debt, because you're going to blow up the dollar. The economy is going to go in the toilet, and I know Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about Social Security, but that's the biggest driver: unfunded liabilities, like the mandatory spending. What are we going to do about that? Because if we don't do something about, like, we're spending more on interest than we are on military spending. You know what I mean? Every year, every 100 days, another $1 trillion is added to the debt. And 1 trillion seconds ago was 30,000 years before Christ, just so people get a little bit of perspective on it. 30,000 years before Christ is 1 trillion seconds ago. We're adding $1 trillion to the debt every 100 days, and we have no plan to fix it. And that is the most immediate existential threat to the United States. Does he have a plan?
Trump does. I'm not going to unveil it. Trump for sure has a plan. I'm also going to tell you, I'm not the economist. I'm like the only Indian that sucks at math. So I went the other route and did national security intel stuff. But I agree with you. It's not sexy, so people don't talk about it. They're just like, whatever, I don't care.
And also, the answers are all ugly, to be honest with you.
And Americans are not financially literate, right? They can't even, I mean, I don't fault them for this, but they have massive credit card debt. It's very difficult
They're
for
fine with the Chinese owning our debt.
Because they don't understand debt.
Exactly.
They don't understand how to leverage it. They don't understand how it works. Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.